Let's go ahead and take everything that we've learned about transformations so far and apply it to one square root function. This function, y equals -2 root x plus 1, has three different transformations being applied all at once. There's the transformation coming from the plus 1 added onto the end. There's the transformation coming from the 2 in front of the radical. And then also there's a transformation from the negative sign. And so these three things working together all transform it from the parent function of y equals root x. And y equals root x is what is graphed right now on the graph that you see there. So let's add this graph of -2 root x plus 1 on there. And so we're going to one at a time plug in these values of x. So let's start off by replacing x with 0. So -2 times the square root of 0 plus 1 is 1. So our first coordinate is 0, 1. Then we'll have -2 times the square root of 1 plus 1. -2 root 1 is -2, and -2 plus 1 is -1. Next, we'll plug in 4. So -2 times the square root of 4 is -4, and -4 plus 1 is -3. And then finally, we'll do the x value of 9. So -2 times the square root of 9 plus 1 is -5. And so we're going to go ahead and put these points on the graph. So our first one is 0, 1. So let's go ahead and put that on there, 0, 1. 1, -1. It's going to be about right here. Then we've got 4, -3. And finally, we have 9, -5. And if we connect these 4 points, this seems like a pretty good approximation of that -2 root x plus 1. So what are all of the transformations that are being done here? Well, it looks like, first of all, it has been reflected. The negative sign reflects it. So we would say there is a reflection across the x-axis. That's what the negative does. And it definitely looks like it has been stretched out. So that 2 in front is causing a vertical stretch. So let's include that as well. And then finally, the plus 1 on the end is causing us to be translated up 1 unit. So translated 1 unit up. And so what effect does this have on the domain and the range? So the domain didn't change at all. We were still able to go all the way down to a domain of 0. We were still taking the square root of x. Nothing inside the square root changed, and so a domain greater than or equal to 0 is still fine. The range, on the other hand, changed quite a bit. First of all, our maximum range value that we got was 1. The highest this graph ever went was 1. And it went from 1 down towards -infinity. So our range is that y is a maximum of 1, and then anything lower than 1. So we'll say y is less than or equal to +1 for the range.